Hmm. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Go back to. All right. Welcome everyone that might be listening. This is Sister Cece of PQLR1 Radio, where Yah is first. Of course, you are joining us today for Be Well Wednesday. We have been doing this for a little while, but then we kind of stopped. You know how life just kind of sidetracks you and you just don't do things for a while, but then you pray about it and you pick it back up. So this is where we are. So we are getting back on track, making sure that we are speaking with you all about being well, not just on Wednesday, but every day of your life. And of course, with that being said, it starts with Yah. It starts with prayer. It starts with repenting. It starts with fasting. So we have to make sure that we are doing those things. We're seeking Yah for our well-being and also for our loved ones around us, you know, because sometimes we are the only ones interceding on their behalf. And sometimes they don't even know how to do it for themselves. No matter what you think people should know, sometimes they don't know, or for whatever reason, they're not doing it. So we have to be well ourselves so that we can make sure that we are reaching out to Yah on behalf of the ones that we love. You know, the word is true. It's real. Life and death is in the power of our tongue, and we have to make sure that we are speaking life to situations. Of course, in the end, Yah is going to be the decider concerning whatever is happening. Okay, I think I've been talking the whole time and nobody could hear me. All right. This is Sister Cece for Be Well Wednesday, and you are listening to us on PQLR1 Radio, where Yah is first. Yes, now you can hear me. I just rattled off a whole bunch of stuff, and nobody could hear me, but that's okay. I thought I pressed the button, and I did not, but it's okay. So this is PQLR1 Radio, where Yah is first. Again, I'm Sister Cece, and you are tuning in or listening to a replay of Be Well Wednesday. So I was saying before I did not press the button, I was saying that we all need to be well, not just for ourselves, but also for our family members. We need to make sure that we are interceding on behalf of them. Being well starts with your relationship with Yah. And with that being said, we have to make sure that we are repenting, we are praying, we are fasting, again, on behalf of those who may not know how to do these things. You know, we are always praying that people learn how to seek Yah for themselves with their whole heart. That's what we want. And of course, we are also praying for ourselves to continue to do those things, because just one wrong decision and we could be in a situation to where we don't even recognize Yah anymore, that we are being taken away by some kind of doctrine that seems like it might be real. I'll give an example. I mean, there's so many examples, but I'll give an example of you know, a way that we could be pulled away. I guess it would be it is. But, you know, there's a narrative going around that slavery never happened or we weren't slaves and all that stuff. But I don't even follow why that could be a thing where people are saying that we weren't slaves. I know that they're saying that we were native to this land. I believe some people were native to this land, but I believe the Bible as well. And the Bible says that we would be brought over to a strange land on ships. Now, of course, when talking with someone that actually doesn't believe the Bible, it gets a bit interesting. I'm not going to say it's difficult, because Yah is the one that gives ears to hear and opens the understanding. You're just to say whatever it is that he has you say, if it say anything at all. But I definitely don't get into these arguments. But you'll find that there are people that have professed to follow Yah before, but now they don't. Some people seem like they were really following Yah, and they were reading the Bible, and they were reading the Bible to you. They were influencers and, just able to talk to you about different things, and you trusted them. But we know that man will fail you each and every time. So we have to trust Yah, because, you know, Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and he is able to use people, and he has used people, and he will continue to use people until Yahusha comes back, because he's been allowed to do so. So we have to make sure that we are following Yah to the best of our ability, and it's not by our own might that these things are done, but it's by him, by his Holy Spirit, by his instruction, and by his understanding. So with that being said, let's get into wellness. Like I said, this is Be Well Wednesday, and you are listening to PQLR1 Radio, where Yah is first. I'm your sister Cece. Feel free to tune in on YouTube. Feel free to download PQLR1 Radio on your Android app, and just listen. Go to YouTube, go to PQLR1 Radio, see what we have there. Go to the radio, listen to the wonderful artists that are following Yah and have decided to make music for Yah. We really enjoy playing these artists. They are excellent. They are really, really bringing forth the word. So if you haven't listened already, make sure you download that app, or just join us on the link. We will have the link provided in the YouTube channel, or even on Facebook, Instagram, or do we have a TikTok? No, we don't have a TikTok, but YouTube and Instagram, you can definitely follow us. You can also email us at PQLR1radio@gmail.com if you want to put in any comments. Again, this will be uploaded to YouTube should you decide that you want to make a comment there. But yeah, so I thank you all for listening today. I'm excited about bringing forth this content. I don't know that I've been this excited since I started talking about parasites. I've been on that journey for a long time now, and I'm still, with it. But I am coming to a great understanding about our being, and that would be that, Yah is our provider. He provides everything that we need, including healing, including understanding, including confusion. Like he can allow the devil to confuse you. He can allow Satan to confuse you. And some would say not, but the Bible says Satan is the author of confusion. But if you're seeking Yah, you can truly receive his understanding concerning health and wellness, including parasites, because there's so much going on in these bodies that we have. And I'm thankful that if we are blessed to go into the kingdom, that we don't have to drag these bodies with us. They won't be allowed, because they've caused us so many problems, whether it be just the different situations concerning the air, the food, things that we've done, just all this stuff. The body just starts to fail, and it starts to deteriorate the moment that you're born. We can just really be honest and say that. You think about a newborn child, but the reality is they are starting to deteriorate as soon as they are born. And actually, unfortunately, some infants don't make it beyond just being born, because the body is given out already. So it takes Yah to uphold this being, this body. So we have to seek him, like I said. So today's topic is actually about honey, the healing within your cupboard, honey. So I like to speak on topics concerning healing, but also bring forth information about what you might already have in your cupboard, because we don't want to miss out on that understanding. You can get so inundated with information and doctrine and this and that, and buy this and purchase that and use this, and you start becoming overwhelmed and thinking, boy, I can't afford all these things. Boy, I can't keep up with these things. Boy, I can't garden. I can't do anything. So then what a lot of people say is, well, there's no use in doing it. It's just too expensive, or it's too much work, or uh, I hear a lot of people say you're going to die from something one day anyway, which I mean, yeah, you will die from something one day, but why would you assist death along the way and just live overindulgently? And why would you just become a glutton or just tear up your body in any way that you can? It doesn't make sense, because let's just say you do live a long life, but then you don't take care of this body, then you will have a life of suffering. So we want to do the best that we can concerning this body. So that's why we're talking about the things that are probably in your cupboard. So the thing that's probably in your cupboard today is honey. I mean, I don't doubt that honey is not in most people's cupboard. But the thing with honey is, what honey do you have in your cupboard? Because we're going to share a documentary, well, a part of a documentary that talks about honey. It's not going to be long, but just uh, the way that people are marketing fake honey is ridiculous. And you might go to the grocery store, and because you don't know what you don't know, you would end up buying something that's actually not honey. Just because it is housed in a little bear, a cute bear, um, and says whatever it says, does not mean it's actual honey. Not only that, it doesn't mean that it's the best honey for you. And we're going to go over those things too. There are several different types of honey. There are a couple of different types of honey, I should say. And the one that most people talk about is Manuka honey. And even that's, there's a breakdown there. I mean, if you know anything about Manuka honey, it is not cheap. It is quite expensive. But there's ways around these things. And again, prayerfully, you have to go after the knowledge and information with Yah. Um, I mean, before we get into Manuka honey at all, I just know that I'm a diligent shopper of a discount. I mean, I love a great discount, seriously. So, with that being said, I'll go to like Ross or TJ Maxx or Home Goods or one of those places like that. And even the clearance section, you would be surprised what you find there. If you just take some time to really go after what it is that you need and get some understanding, you'll just automatically be looking out for these things when you go to the store and you go to the clearance section or you go to Home Goods. I know that I've seen Manuka honey myself at Home Goods a few times, but I never had a desire to really buy it. Um, I don't really know why. Probably because it's more expensive than just your run of the mill honey. Like for instance, I know I can get raw honey from Trader Joe's, but after doing this research that I've done, I actually kind of question the honey from Trader Joe's. I'm probably going to do a little research on that. I've enjoyed that honey, but I question that honey. And again, like so many things we're going to go over from this book that we're going to look at here in a second. I didn't realize that honey is sourced, or honey can be sourced if you don't have good honey. It's just like beef, the same thing as beef. Like you think that you're buying this package of hamburger meat because you're going to do some grilling for your family. Now, we don't do no grilling for our family because we do not eat meat at all. We don't eat meat. We don't eat eggs. We don't, I guess you would use the vegan word, but we don't subscribe or ascribe to that word either. Not really. We try not to. We just don't eat animals, and we don't drink milk. We don't eat eggs. Okay, so we try not to. Now, with that being said, here's a little shift. People would say, well, then you shouldn't eat honey, but there's something to that as well. Certain honey is sourced from bees in a different way than what we think. But anyway, as I was saying, I don't remember what I was saying, but honey is definitely something that we really need to look more into and just be mindful of where we get it, how it's sourced, and if it's actually honey. So let's see if we can go into, um, let's see if we can go into YouTube. We can. we can go into YouTube. I'm not sure where it went, but let's see here. I think we got it here. Yep, we do got it here. We got it here. Oh, here it is right here. All right. So this video that I got from YouTube. Now I looked, there's several documentaries on honey. There's a lot of documentaries on bees. I didn't really want to specify this talk today on bees per se. But of course, bees are important because that's where it comes from. But this one is talking about the sources of fake things like honey, caviar, and saffron, I think it is. But I mean, you can get it for yourself off of YouTube. It is 11 of the most fake foods in the world, and it's by Insider Business, and it's called Big Business. So we're going to listen to it now. Excuse the commercials, everyone. Okay, let's go back to it. There's that bear. No.
No.
Go.
You're not done?
Go. Okay. So olive oil also tops their list, but we're not dealing with olive oil today. So again, you can check that out on your own, the Business Insider. All right. So that was just a little snippet talking about the fraudsters that that market honey, and it's sad because my goodness, that's why people say we can't eat anything, and it's because there are people just fraudulently doing many different things, and that's why people are so nostalgic. They want to go back to yesteryear when they thought that things were okay, when actually things have never been okay, but it's just more in our face today. But it's really sad that people would put something in a container and call it honey when it's actually not honey, um, because people want to take these things for medicinal properties, So if they're taking this and it's not even honey, my goodness. So like, are they making themselves sicker? Probably so. But shout out to my husband, Willie Pruitt. Thank you for making it all possible. I do see him there. All right. I'm so glad. Thank you. Honey is mentioned and say, yep, we will definitely talk about honey being mentioned in the Bible. That is definitely true. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you this book. Now, this is kind of where I started. It's not really where I started. I started with this whole list of references concerning honey. I don't even know. I think what got me here was I was trying to figure out some information for dental work that I need to have done. So we'll start out with root canals. So we know that regular conventional dentists, they promote root canals. And if you don't know, root canals are absolutely poison. And when I say poison, it's because when they uproot that tooth and they go in there and they do what they do, they cannot sterilize your gums fully because there are several tubules. When I say several, I mean zillions of tubules that are in your mouth that could wrap around the earth a million times or something like that. So they could never go in there and properly disinfect your tooth or your gums or whatever. So what ends up happening is the bacteria and all that grows ends up sealing it. It's sealing down underneath your gums because they're closing all that up. So root canals are actually bad. You could look that information up too. I don't know if I'll do anything on dental work. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see. But in the meantime, that got me looking into a bunch of different information. And, it was Holy Spirit led, Ruach, you want to say Ruach, but led me into that information. And I was like, oh, because I've been here before. Like, I'll be praying about something concerning my own health. And, I'll just be led to certain information. It's like, wow, that's so simple. I have this right at home. And that's how I got on this honey journey. Like there was several scholarly articles and different information that was provided to me. And then I went to my local library and I gave the man my phone. I was like, here's my phone. What do you have in this library that is from this list? And it was a super duper long list. So when he came out with whatever he came out with on the list, he came up with this book. Now, it looks backwards, I guess. It's called The Honey Prescription, and it's by Nathaniel Altman, and it's The Amazing Power of Honey as Medicine, okay? So I would suggest that you pick this book up because I have enjoyed it. I mean, of course I need to buy it myself, but I'm like, maybe I'll pay the library for the book, okay? Because I don't feel like ordering it. It's already here. Why give it back? That's wrong. Somebody else might want the book. So I'll give the book back, but I need to order it myself. But as I was preparing material to talk with you about, I found myself wanting to highlight. And I normally don't highlight books. I like my books to be pure and like just untouched. I don't know why. But this book I actually wanted to highlight because there is so much good information in here. I just could not retain myself from doing so, barely. But I did. I didn't write it in the book. I'm going to give it back to the library. So meanwhile, back to what I was saying with the tooth situation. Now, I think I'll go to that chapter. We'll see. But instead of going through a whole root canal, there is a process where honey could be put on a certain type of fabric and it could be inserted into your tooth. Like, let's say they pull the tooth, that could be inserted there in that space so that you could heal. Because honey has healing properties, and we'll get into all that. And I apologize for skipping around, but like, I feel like this book has just like been a part of me, all day at least, but like it's been a part of me because I think it is a very important resource. But anyway, so you could put that in your tooth and it will heal because it has the antibacterial properties, antimicrobial properties, which means it's going to heal that problem that you have in your tooth. Okay, so it's sad that they're not really going to tell you these things. just like the doctor, the dentist is a tooth doctor. So if he's just a conventional dentist, he's not really telling you these things. He's just going off of what his training is and what's going to make him the most money. He's not going to talk to you about honey being a healing property. And like I said, he may not even know that. But what I do know is they do know that clove heals. Like if you have a toothache, dentists know that you could totally take some clove oil or cloves and put it right there where your tooth hurts, and it will totally take that pain away, because clove is also healing and has antimicrobial properties and can take away that whole situation that you might be having in your tooth. Now you may have to see a dentist. Like I always seek a genetic dentist. Let me see if I'm saying it right. I might not have the term right today. Let me see. It is let's see. Okay, well, my other phone does not want to tell me what it is, but it's like a biogenetic dentist, something like that. Not genetic. Genetic is not the word. I'm using it wrong. A holistic dentist. Okay, so forget that word. Just it's a holistic dentist. But if you go see a holistic dentist, they take a total different approach, or they should, concerning the health of your mouth. First of all, we've talked about this before. I believe that every tooth in your mouth is connected to your organs, because we know this body is a system. It's not just, okay, I pull this tooth. No, if you pull your tooth, let's say right here, your fang, is that called a bicuspid? I don't know. But your tooth, you pull your tooth, that tooth is connected to something like your heart, your liver, your kidneys, or something like that. So when you pull out these teeth, which they make big money from, you are affecting your body, because it's a system. It's not just you're pulling a tooth, it's a whole body thing. So something is liable to start giving you problems later on in life. I hear some people say, oh no, my grandfather, whatever, had his tooth pulled and he's 89 years old. I don't know. I can't go off for other people's grandfather and what's happened with them or whatever. I have to go off the information that I have concerning this, because everybody's body is different. Everybody's body responds to different things differently. That's something that we have to be mindful of as well. Even talking about this honey, people's bodies will respond differently. I'm not going to say honey is poison or anything like that. I'm not going to say this is not medical advice. I'm not saying none of that stuff. I'm saying that you need to do whatever you need to do to make sure that your health is on par so you could live a good life. That's what I'm going to say. You know, because some people get on these platforms and say, this is not meant for medical purposes. This is just for entertainment. This is not for entertainment. This is your life. Okay. So I'm not saying that. I'm going to tell you that you need to do whatever you need to do to make sure that you are living the most optimal health that you can do. And starting with honey is going to be a good start. Okay. So that dental thing, like I said, that's further on in this book, and you're more than welcome to get this book. Again, this is called The Honey Prescription, The Amazing Power of Honey as Medicine. And you can get it quite cheaply on the internet. Like, you know, they have used books and then you can get it new, whatever. But I would definitely get this book. So where we start out in this book is they start talking about the honeybees. Who are the honeybees? Here's a quote from Hattie Ellis in Sweetness and Light. It says, this tiny creature's achievements tower above the flights of architecture and efficiency of man-made machinery. It has occupied the minds of scientists, writers, musicians, and philosophers around the globe. So it's talking about the bees, the honeybees or whatever. Then as you go on, it's telling you the different parts of the bee. Now, if you're a homeschooler, this is a good book for you as well. And you could even start out with the small children concerning this book. It's not over their head, okay? They know what a bee is. So you could advance their knowledge and information concerning this book. No need to break anything down. Just read it. Just read the book to them. So in here, you'll see that they show the body of the bee, and it's talking quite extensively about the different parts of the bee. Like there's a picture here with the parts of the bee, and it's talking about the head, the thorax, the abdomen, and all that stuff, the anatomy of the honeybee. Now, we don't need to go over all that. You can, again, buy the book or look it up on the internet. So let's see. Then there is the apiary. Let's see if it tells us. Let's see. Da, 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 da. It says life in honeybee society. A colony of honeybees can contain between 30 and 60,000 workers in early summer, plus a queen and up to 3,000 drones, whose sole purpose is to mate with the single queen. The social life of the honeybee has always been viewed as a model of industry, cooperation, and efficiency. Each member of a bee community has a specific role in life and numerous tasks to accomplish. An old graphic depicting a beekeeper and a variety of bees is reproduced in figure 1.3. So it's just a picture that somebody created, the apiary, the beekeeper at work. So then pictured there is a working bee, grub bee, drone, enlargement, drone, queen, queen, enlarge, and working bee. So that's the bee. So it talks about the bee and the complexities of the bee. Let's see here. Yeah, lots of information on the bee, which is important if you are looking to, like I said, homeschool, really good information. So, chapter 2 is honey, gift of the gods, but we know that there is one Yahuwah and he's the creator. So, whatever these folks are talking about. And it says, honey is a wonderful gift of nature, of Yah again, and stands almost alone as a pure natural sweet, perfect in itself. And that's from Samuel Simmons, A Modern Bee Farm, and it's Economic Management in 1887. That's a book, okay, from 1887. Be interesting to go back in some of these older books to find out what knowledge and information they're providing. But it says honey, the definition. What is honey? A reliable definition can be found in the Codex Alimentarius, or food code, that was developed by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organizations. It is the global reference for commercial food producers, food processors, and national food control agencies around the world. In 2001, it offered the following general definition of honey, in which all commercially required characteristics of the product are described. Honey is the natural sweet substance produced by honeybees from the nectar of plants or from secretions of living parts of plants or excretions of plants, sucking insects on the living parts of plants, which the bees collect, transform by combining with specific substances of their own, deposit, dehydrate, store, and leave in the honeycomb to ripen and mature. Honey, 2 basic types. Okay, so it says, as he mentioned earlier, that there are several hundred species of bees that produce honey, and other types of bees, even wasps, are known to store different kinds of honey as food reserves. Yet because the vast majority of honey we consume today is produced by one bee species known as Apis mellifera, any references to honey made in this book will refer to this species unless otherwise specified. The Codex provides 2 further definitions of honey produced by Apis mellifera. The first one is blossom honey, or nectar honey, is distinguished as coming from the nectaries of flowers or the plant's glands that secrete a sweet substance called nectar. The vast majority of honey we consume is blossom honey. Honeydew honey comes from the excretions of insects, so there's a difference there. The second one comes from the excretions of insects, such as aphids, whiteflies, mealybugs, and other sapsuckers that suck the sap out of plants. In Europe, the major source of honeydew is evergreen trees, and the final product is often marketed as forest honey. While popular in some European countries and other areas of the world, beekeepers often find it difficult to sell forest honey because it has a stronger flavor than blossom honey. Very often, bees collecting this resource have to be fed protein supplements because honeydew lacks the protein-rich pollen that is gathered from flowers. So that's a problem to me. You got to feed the bees protein to do what's supposed to be natural. Okay, so I wrote a note to myself to go to page 36. So let's go to page 36. Okay. So in that, there's another thing that says, where does honey come from? Or where does your honey come from? In addition, some bee colonies, especially in China, are located in industrial zones or other areas with considerable air pollution. This can lead to contamination of the honey with noxious or toxic chemicals. In the Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus, the nuclear reactor disaster at Chernobyl in 1986 polluted parts of these countries with radioactive iodine and cesium. And bee products like pollen and honey were used as markers to monitor the extent of radiological pollution. Although the accident occurred many years ago, some locals still tend to avoid honey from the Chernobyl region because they believe that some of the land and therefore the plants and products from these plants in these areas remain radioactive. Isn't that crazy? Like, okay, so they want to avoid the Chernobyl area, but I mean, does the stuff stay in Chernobyl or does it travel? Does it come to the United States? Does it cross the waters? Does it go into the next town where Chernobyl is? The answer is yes. And so I don't know what these people are talking about. Well, I know what they're talking about, but the toxic stuff definitely is poisonous, and it does travel. And it just makes me think also of what is the other thing? Oh Lord, I just forgot it. Um, the toxic water. Oh, what is the toxic water called? Help me out. What is the toxic water called? Um, the radioactive water that happened in Japan, it's the same thing. Like they act like it just stayed right there, and it's clearly not right there. It is spanning all across the world because it's all in the water. It's all just toxic. It's toxic. And that's why we have to just be mindful of what we are consuming because all these different things are happening. Why can't I remember this water? What is it called? Let's see. I don't know. I can't even think of it right now. That's crazy. I probably need to take some honey myself because it helps with memory. But anyway, so in Canada and the United States and the United Kingdom and Italy, honeybees have been used to monitor environmental pollution because of accumulations of certain heavy metals and other substances can be measured in pollen, honey, and other hive products as well as in the bees themselves. Most of the honey that's sold in supermarkets today is imported in bulk from one or more countries. It is then blended and packaged, like I said before, kind of like the beef. It's all blended and packaged into plastic or glass containers for sale. So this honey is, you in your mind, you're probably thinking, okay, this came from one set of bees in this one place or whatever. No, like it's all just compiled together, just like the beef, just like the hamburger meat and all that stuff that you might be eating. It's all compiled from different places to make the jar or whatever, the container of honey. So let's see. The consumer has no idea where the honey actually comes from, aside from a label indicating the country or countries of origin. So that's crazy. Like it can be coming from many different countries. This is why a growing number of savvy consumers only buy honey from sources they know and trust, such as individual apiaries, local farm stands, or from distributors that have been awarded a certified organic label from a reputable organization. Woo, it's a lot. It is a lot, but we can get through it. We can definitely make sure that we are purchasing from reputable sources. That organic label, people say it doesn't mean much, but I still go off of it because what else are you going to do? I mean, you got to have some kind of mile marker concerning the things that you buy. Okay, so chapter 3 is Sacred Bee, Sacred Honey. And the quote here is from Friedrich Nietzsche or something like that, some kind of German name. Our treasure lies in the beehive of our knowledge. We are perpetually on the way to being nature-winged insects and honey gatherers of the mind. All right, so I wrote a note to myself. Oh, yep, and I already said it. Talking about the hamburger meat and all of that stuff just being compiled together. We just have this real Disneyland effect concerning where our food comes from. We're not really correctly thinking about like what's happening, although we are being given information daily because of social media, like what is really happening with our foods, where it's coming from, where it's not coming from, what it is being affected by, and what it's doing to our bodies because it's not what we thought it was. So we just got to continue to be mindful. All right, so let's see. All right, so yeah, we'll go through this. It's talking about where honey comes from. Well, not where honey comes from, but different cultures that have been using honey. And so here we go with the Bible. So as my husband said before, honey is definitely in the Bible. So here it's talking about honey in the Holy Land, which, okay, we know what they're talking about, but just biblically, the early Hebrews and the essence of Jewish religious groups that flourished from the second century BCE to the first century CE. I'm assuming they really mean Israelites, not the curly Q people today. Valued wild honey as one of the finest foods. They also considered honey a symbol of both abundance and heavenly grace. The Hebrew scriptures contain many references to honey. In Exodus 3:8, while addressing Moses from the burning bush, Yahuwah, says Yahweh, but Yahuwah announces his plan to bring the Israelites out of Egypt to a land flowing with milk and honey. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a spacious land unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and Hivitites and the Jebusites. Other passages of the Holy Bible abound the reference to honey. The Song of Solomon mentions both honey and honeycomb in connotation with the bridegroom, 5:1, and the bride, 4:11, and the book of Proverbs, 16:24, makes an allusion to friendly words as honeycombs in Genesis 43:11. Jacob sends honey as a gift to Joseph, the powerful governor of Egypt, while in 1 Kings 14:3. Jeroboam asked his wife to bring a gift of honey to the prophet Ahijah, entreating him to heal their sick son. This may be one of the first biblical references to honey as medicine. Honey was valued as a remedy for the eyes in early Israel, and Ahijah suffered from blindness. Excuse me, let me read that again. This may be one of the first biblical references to honey as medicine. Honey was valued as a remedy for the eyes in early Israel, and Ahijah suffered from blindness. Wow. Okay. So honey has the ability to heal blindness. All right. All right. Some of the early Jews forbade the eating of honey because the bee belonged to a class of unclean insects. Some rabbis permitted its use because they argued erroneously that honey is not the product of the bee, but that honey is merely stored in its body. Today, many Jewish families dip bread in honey during the period between Rosh Hashanah to Hoshana Rabbah, symbolizing the wish for a good and sweet new year. Oh, we know we don't even get into what these folks doing because they're somebody else, but that's what they do. Among early Christians, honey had a deep and mysterious meaning. It was served to the newly christened as a symbol of renovation and spiritual perfection. So that's just something from some of these folks. And they talk about, the people who believe the Quran and the Asians and the bees in the New World and all that. And then they got like all these symbolic things, which, everybody has symbolism concerning things that they feel are powerful. They love to worship the creation and not the creator. We know that, but we don't do that. We worship and give reverence to the creator, Yahuwah, right? Yes, absolutely. The honeybee today, they talk about, let's see, this is where they talk about, okay. Okay, so Australia and New Zealand, that's a very important place concerning extracting important honey. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, that's important. Okay, so now let's get down to the nitty gritty. You talk about honey in medicine, and they talk about honey being important all the way back to the Egyptian days. They talk about Rome and Greece, India, ancient Israel. Okay, yeah, ancient Israel. Okay, and Jewish law and all that stuff. But again, we just gonna skip over that part. But you can clearly read through this book and find where it has been used throughout history, and it talks about honey and its Ayurvedic approach, which we don't really go off of those things. Again, let's see, healing honey. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it just shows throughout time how honey has been used. Let's see, it talks about in folk medicine. Let's see, Nigerians have used it to heal earaches, measles. Okay, in honey, the gourmet medicine, Joe Trainer recounts the story of a veterinarian who served in the Bulgarian army as an officer during the Second Balkan War in 1913. His platoon had come across a small amount of honey in an abandoned farmhouse. There was not enough honey to use as food for the soldiers, but the officer decided to apply it to the wounds of a few of his men, as medicine was scarce. The officer recorded the case of one soldier whose infected foot had not responded to medication. Let's see. Okay, a war vet. Okay, big scar on the back of his right foot. In the center of the scar was an ulcer, 3 by 3 centimeters, with deep glossy grayish bottom and necrotic thickening edges, which means it was rotten. That necrotic is rotten. The patient said the wound had been in this state for 3 months. Wow, so if he was like in Western society, they would have chopped his foot clean off, trust and believe. Anytime they see something rotten, they're ready to cut it off. 20 days after the honey ointment was applied, the ulcer healed, right? Wow, 20 days after applying that honey. Okay, many folk healers still use honey today in ulcers and cuts. In rural Ghana, honey is a popular treatment for leg ulcers, whereas European and American healers use honey either by itself or combined with other ingredients to treat both minor and serious wounds. In the classic The Nature Doctor, first published in 1952, the Swiss naturopath Alfred Vogel recommended mixing a teaspoon of honey with 20 to 30 drops of tincture of echinacea for healing minor scrapes, wounds, and cuts. He also suggests the following combination. So there's a lot of following combinations, and it's talking about rural Nigeria again. Let's see. Honey is used as an antiseptic to treat wounds and skin infections. Meadow honey, for example, is believed to regulate intestine and liver functions. May honey, which is made from the first spring flowers, has strongly marked fever-reducing, painkiller, and antibacterial effects. It is widely used to treat cough, headache, fatigue, and fever. May honey is also useful in strengthening hair. Mineral-rich buckwheat honey is used both alone and with herbal preparation to lower blood pressure and relieve symptoms of rheumatism, scarlet fever, measles, and spotted fever. It also can be taken internally to prevent and treat blood vessels after radiotherapy and is prescribed to patients suffering from radiation sickness. Now, radiation sickness, let's talk about that. Who has radiation sickness? A lot of people. You know why? Because of all this internet that we're exposed to, the Wi-Fi that I'm talking to you on right now, that's exposure to radiation. Your phone, exposure to radiation. Your TV, anything electrical, exposure to radiation. So we should be looking into perhaps taking honey on a regular basis, or this type of honey, so that we can get rid of some of these free radicals from radiation sickness, right? Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's see here. Okay. Honey from another stingless bee is eaten. Oh my goodness. Okay, to treat the flu. Let's see. Costanado also reported that honey from two other stingless Melipona bees is consumed as general fortifiers by traditional people in Taquinho. They also eat the honey of the Tarragoncia, another stingless bee, to treat cataracts, glaucoma, and cough. Wow. Okay. So we've had two references concerning the eyes and honey. So it looks like there's a specified honey for different things. But I say, use what you have. I've got Trader Joe's honey. I'm using Trader Joe's today until I step up my game and get maybe some Manuka honey. And by the way, Costco does have Manuka honey. It's not the highest grade of Manuka honey, and that's another thing. There's levels to this stuff, but again, use what you have. Don't freak out about it. Just pray over what you have and use it. So in part 2, it talks about honey as a healer. And let's see here. So, all right. So on the morning of October 26, 2007, readers of the New York Post woke up to screaming headlines: Superbug kills NYC kid. The story related how a 12-year-old Brooklyn schoolboy who was diagnosed with MRSA infection several weeks before died in the hospital after antibiotics would not save him. Now we know that still bumping and grinding and sleeping with folks and just being random. You better know that, condoms don't cover everything. They really don't. Like, if we don't know that by now, we totally need to get a clue, okay? That's not something that they taught you in sex ed in school, but they don't really cover everything. So, dental issues, ear infections, impetigo, just a whole list of things. Cholera, so many things. It talks about wounds being healed by honey and the problem with wounds. Let's see here. It says, when honey is applied to a wound, it acts like a dry sponge that soaks up water. This process is called osmosis. Because of osmosis, the honey draws fluid away from the infected wound. This helps to kill bacteria because bacteria needs liquid in order to grow. According to Arnie Simon, MD, and colleague of the University of Bonn, the Institute of Bee Research, there's a whole Institute of Bee Research, and the University of Waikato, honey works differently from antibiotics, which attack the bacteria's cell wall or inhibit intercellular metabolic pathways. Honey is hygroscopic, meaning it draws moisture out of the environment and thus dehydrates bacteria. This happens because honey is saturated or supersaturated solution of sugar, with 84% of honey being mixture of fructose and glucose. Now, don't let fructose and glucose scare you, because I watched some videos and people were even talking about, oh, you need to be careful of honey because it has glucose and fructose. But it's processed totally different because this is a natural occurrence that's happening with honey. So in here, you'll find that honey is recommended for people who are diabetic, right? So back to this. The strong interaction of these sugar molecules with water molecules leaves very few of the water molecules available to support the survival, let alone growth of microorganisms. Yes, honey, low pH for health. So it talks about the standard measure of the acidity or alkalinity of a solution is expressed as pH, which is potential of hydrogen. Now, here's the next thing. Hydrogen peroxide. So honey has a measure of hydrogen peroxide in it, which is also antimicrobial and kills things. Hydrogen peroxide is another reason why honey can heal. Hydrogen peroxide is created in the atmosphere when ultraviolet light strikes oxygen in the presence of moisture when it comes into contact with water. This extra atom of oxygen splits off very easily. Water, or H2O, combines with the extra atom of oxygen and becomes hydrogen peroxide. Aside from being known as a powerful oxygenator and oxidizer, a special quality of hydrogen peroxide is its ability to readily decompose into water and oxygen. Hydrogen peroxide reacts easily with other substances and is able to kill bacteria, fungi, parasites, viruses, and even some types of tumor cells. Hydrogen peroxide is involved in many of our body's natural processes. As an oxygenator, it is able to deliver small quantities of oxygen to the blood and other vital systems throughout the body. Hydrogen peroxide does not oxygenate the body merely by producing modest amounts of oxygen. It also has an extraordinary capacity to stimulate oxidative enzymes. Oxidative enzymes can change the chemical component of other substances like viruses and bacteria. So let me read that again. Oxidative enzymes can change the chemical component of other substances like viruses and bacteria without being changed themselves. Rather than providing more oxygen to the cells, the presence of hydrogen peroxide enhances natural cellular oxidative process, increasing the body's ability to do what oxygen to use what oxygen is available. So basically, the hydrogen peroxide that is given off by honey just boosts your body's ability to do what it's supposed to do, which is heal itself. Again, these are things that you might have already at home. You might want to up your honey game, but if you can't right now, make sure that you are taking real honey. Like they said, a lot of people just decide to go to their local farmers market and deal with local beekeepers and those kind of people. That way you know you're getting authentic honey, okay? But start somewhere. Just start in your understanding and knowing that honey is a healer. It definitely can heal some of these things that people are going through. So then it talks about H2O2 in honey. Varying antibacterial potential, okay? Phytochemical factors, the antioxidant capacity of honey. So antioxidants are enzymes such as catalase, superoxide dismutase, and glutathione peroxidase that protect cells from free radicals by chemically changing them into harmless components like oxygen and water. Because excess free radical activity can seriously deplete our body's antioxidant reserves, nutritionists recommend that we augment those supplies with foods rich in antioxidants. 3 common vitamins, beta carotene, which is vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin E, are important dietary antioxidants, as are minerals like zinc and selenium. These natural antioxidants can help inhibit or control excessive oxidation in addition to protecting proteins, fats, and other substances in the body from oxidative damage. Antioxidants can also help stabilize cell membranes and have been found to influence chemical messengers both within and between body cells. Many of the foods we eat, green and yellow vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds, contain antioxidant vitamins and minerals in abundance and are recommended as major parts of healthy diets. Honey contains a variety of antioxidants as well, as although in far smaller amounts than broccoli or oranges. Because honey is easily digested, some nutritionists have recommended it as an alternative to sugar and high fructose corn syrup as a sweetener, because these products are devoid of antioxidants and other beneficial nutrients. Okay, so replace the sugar with honey. Okay, so then it's talking about honey's antioxidant research. Which honeys have more antibacterial activity? So then it goes through the different honeys with their different antibacterial activity. Talks about the honeydew honey, the dark honeys such as buckwheat, cedar, clover, manuka, ling, heather, and borage, okay, tend to have higher antibacterial activity than paler honeys like acacia, tawny, wild raspberry, and sage. So those honeys, the darker honeys. What is it always about the darker stuff? The blacker the berry, the sweeter the berry and all that stuff. The darker things tend to have more value to them, like our darker skin, our melanin. Yah knows what he's doing. He knew what he was doing when he created these things. The darker items tend to be better for us. Okay, so the power of manuka. Now this is where we need to be right here, the manuka, because that's what everybody talks about. They talk about raw honey and they talk about manuka honey. All right, So again, there's many properties to the Manuka honey as well. There's like levels to buying honey. But again, I'll keep saying, start where you're at. Okay. Yes, melanin. Absolutely. Okay, so the power of Manuka. One of the most exciting developments in investigation of the phytochemical components of honey took place in 1988. This is when Dr. Peter C. Mullen of the Department of Biological Sciences at the University of Waikato in New Zealand discovered that honey made from the flowers of New Zealand's Manuka trees seem to be especially powerful at killing bacteria and doesn't depend on hydrogen peroxide activity to do so. So Manuka honey stands alone because it doesn't need the property of hydrogen peroxide as other honey has, which is amazing, which gives you options. Okay, so although other honeys may well contain specific antibacterial properties, Dr. Mullen believes that the antibacterial component found in Manuka honey is unique, or it names the specific tree, which is Leptospermum plants. That's why he decided to call it the unique Manuka factor, or UMF, and developed a test to evaluate the UMF levels reflecting antibacterial strength as distinct from hydrogen peroxide activity. So he's balancing that. He's trying to see how Manuka honey contends with the hydrogen peroxide activity. The two discoveries have shed light on this mysterious, unique Manuka factor. One published in the 2007 issue of the Journal of Leukocyte Biology shows that there is a component of Manuka honey, a known protein known scientifically as 5.8-KDA, that stimulates immune cells, including tumor necrosis factor described earlier. Again, talking about that necrosis, talking about dead things. Via the molecule TLR4, which is classified as to toll-like receptor that initiates cellular response and is believed to play a key role in the body's innate immune system. Wow. Methylglycol. Another discovery was reported in the journal Carbohydrate Research on January 12th, 2008, a team of scientists in the chemistry department at the University of Waikato was able to isolate the fraction of the New Zealand Manuka honey that gives rise to its non-peroxide antibacterial activity. The fraction proved to be methylglycol, a highly reactive precursor in the formation of advanced glycation endoproducts. Okay, so more studies. And that's the thing about this book. It is full of studies. It's not just somebody rambling off some things. You can look into the studies yourself. It's talking about the properties of the Manuka honey here. It's talking about the testing criteria that they go off of. What do the UMF ratings mean? Meaning, like, okay, if I'm going to buy my Manuka honey, I need to be looking at these ratings so I can understand them. And then there's a medical grade of Manuka. In addition to the UMF rating, some Manuka honey is classified as medical grade honey, sold under brands like Amiped and MediHoney. It is made into a gel used primarily by healthcare providers for wound treatment, because, honey treats wounds as well as like burns, cuts, abrasions, that sort of thing. Okay, so yes. And I'm looking at a picture and it's showing in figure 5.2 the medical honey. So it talks about next how honey treats wounds. And I definitely wanted to read this part. Now, we know that some of our people have suffered from diabetes and all of these issues that are pretty much, I'm not going to say food issues, but lack of food, because we've been fed things that are actually not food. So we're going to look at this, because it's just sad, like I said before, they amputate things all the time. They want to cut things up, cut things off, and just do these different things that are not good for our people. Okay, here's another quote. Honey has enormous potential to be a potent non-toxic treatment for wounds. There is little doubt that honey will be a valuable tool for all medical staff involved in the management of wounds. That is, if these people decide to really use it like they should instead of antibiotics, right? So this says when Dr. Jennifer Eddy, a physician and professional of family medicine at the University of Wisconsin Medical School at Eau Claire, first saw the left foot of a 79-year-old man with type 2 diabetes, she was shocked. The ulcer covering his forefoot was an unrecognizable black mess. Most of the heel was a festering sore. 2 of the man's toes had been amputated and he was unable to walk. After 5 hospitalizations, 4 surgeries, and intense treatment with antibiotics during the previous 14 months at a cost of $390,000, the patient was considered a lost cause. Can you believe that? After they chopped off his body parts, and at a cost of $390,000, the patient was considered a lost cause. Not only had he not responded to antibiotics therapy, but the drugs were actually responsible for a variety of medical complications, including acute kidney failure. His deep ulcers were festering with MRSA, vancomycin-resistant enterococcus, VRE, and Pseudomonas, and it was only getting worse. Doctors wanted to amputate that patient's entire foot and told him he would most likely die unless they operated. Well, don't they always say that? If you don't let them cut on you, you're going to die. Like, they're just full of scare tactics. But Yah has a remedy for all of this. I'm sitting here getting really upset. He has a remedy for these wicked people. The old man refused the operation. Good for him. The old man refused the operation, but allowed the doctors to amputate a 3rd toe before leaving the hospital and returning home. With standard techniques exhausted, Eddy turned to a long-forgotten treatment used by physicians in ancient Egypt and Sumeria, prescribed by healers in India and China, and praised by Hippocrates and Galen, honey. Dr. Eddy carefully dressed the wounds in honey, soaked gauze, and instructed members of the patient's family on how to treat his wounds with honey at home. She described the man's course of treatment in her article appearing in the June 2005 issue of the Journal of Family Practice. I wouldn't be surprised if the Journal of Family Practice wasn't available online, but we can look it up, right? So June 2005 issue of the Journal of Family Practice. And her name is Dr. Eddy. And she is out of Wisconsin Medical School at Eau Claire. Okay, so look that up. Once daily, thick applications of ordinary honey purchased at the supermarket were smeared on gauze 4x4 and placed on the wounds, which were then wrapped. Oral antibiotics and saline dressings were discontinued, but otherwise treatment for diabetes was unchanged. So you're still being treated for the diabetes, whatever that treatment was, but they stopped the antibiotics. Okay. Since the patient's family purchased and applied the honey, the cost of this therapy was merely that of the dressing. Okay. Let's see, since the patient's family purchased and applied the honey, the cost of this therapy was merely that of the dressing. Dressing changes were painless, and the serum glucose, blood glucose levels relating to diabetes remained in excellent control. Okay? Now, when they put you on antibiotics, is it anything excellent or is it more downhill? It's more downhill. I guarantee you it's more downhill. The elderly man returned to Dr. Eddy every few weeks for evaluation. The results were astounding. Granulation, the growth of new tissue, began to appear in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Within 6 to 12 months, the ulcers completely healed. 6 to 12 weeks, the ulcers completely healed. How about that? And so we want to think that, oh, this is just for happenstance, just this happened to this man. No. These people just don't want to try these other methods. They just want to chop off your feet, chop off your legs and all that stuff. But this is honey. Within 6 to 12 months, the ulcers completely healed. When Dr. Eddy wrote about her findings 2 years later, the ulcers had not reappeared. The patient was able to walk and his overall quality of life had significantly improved. Her experience with this elderly patient was not an isolated case, what I tell you. I've used honey in a dozen cases since then, says Dr. Eddie. I've yet to have one that it didn't improve. So look at that. These people chopping off legs and feet and toes and amputating up to your hips and all this stuff, but they're not trying the most simple thing, honey. I'll say some of them don't know it, but some of them do know it. They get a bigger kickback of doing all these surgeries versus telling you what's really going to work for you. We got to get ourselves together, y'all. We really, really, like I said before, not just for ourselves, but for our family members. You know, sometimes they won't listen to us. They'll just listen to these doctors, but at least you can bring it forth. You can't bring it forth if you don't know it yourself. Get this book. Read these articles. They have several articles that you can reference in here so you can educate yourself on the benefits of honey. Again, things you might have in your cupboard already. Okay? We got to get this information. So doctors take another look. Physicians like Dr. Eddie have not only found that honey rapidly clears infections from wounds, but it also actually promotes healing. In the previous chapter, I mentioned that laboratory studies have found that honey inhibits the growth of more than 60 types of bacteria, including those most commonly associated with wounds. It also works where bacteria-resistant antibiotics do not, such as killing the dreaded Streptococcus pyogenes or flesh-eating bacteria. They have found that honey rarely produces adverse side effects. It's far more cost-effective than traditional medicines used to treat both minor and serious wounds. Why is honey such a miracle wound healer? Laboratory and clinical research offers the following reasons. Bacteria cannot live in the presence of honey. The osmotic pressure that sucks a solvent through a membrane of a cell into a denser solution that honey naturally exerts, removes water molecules from bacteria, making them shrivel up and die. Shrivel up and die. Honey placed on a wound creates a physical barrier through which bacteria cannot pass. When honey is diluted with water, the glucose oxidase contains becomes active and produces hydrogen peroxide, a powerful antibacterial agent. The sticky texture of honey prevents dried blood from adhering to the bandage. Dressing can be removed from the wound without hurting the new skin cells. You know how like you rip something off and it's just like, ooh, it's ripping off and it hurts and skin might come up. Honey's not doing that. Adverse side effects of honey-based wound dressings are extremely rare. It doesn't say it doesn't happen. It says extremely rare. All right. So what kind of wounds can honey treat? All right. So abrasions, amputations, abscesses, bed sores, burst abdominal wounds following cesarean delivery, canker oris, gangrenous ulcers of the mouth. So if you got like canker sores of your mouth, cervical ulcers, okay, childblain, inflamed swelling, sores caused by exposure to cold, cracked nipples, like if you're breastfeeding. People just don't have random cracked nipples. This is talking about breastfeeding. Cuts, diabetic foot ulcers and other diabetic ulcers. Fistulas, that's a female issue that you might have. Foot ulcers and lepers. I don't know what that is. Infected wounds arising from trauma, large septic wounds, leg ulcers, malignant ulcers, sickle cell related ulcers, skin ulcers, surgical wounds, tropical ulcers. I don't know what a tropical ulcer is. I'm going to look that one up too. Wounds to the abdominal wall and perineum, varicose ulcers. Wow. Writing in the Journal of Annals of Medicine, Philip C. Bowles observed, in order to maximize the opportunity for wound healing, it is necessary to create conditions in the local environment that are favorable to the host repair mechanism and unfavorable to microorganisms. So, honey works in a variety of significant ways to help the body fight off wounds, infections, and make it difficult for harmful microorganisms to survive. It also possesses unique properties that enable the patient to feel more comfortable on both physical and psychological levels. Now, I'm going to go back to what he said here. In order to maximize the opportunity for wound healing, it is necessary to create conditions in the local environment that are favorable to host repair mechanisms and favorable microorganisms. Do you know what that means? That means you can't just be eating pork chops and cake and candy and soda and all these different things that are not food and expect to be healed. You got to change your internal environment. And I'll even say your external environment. Like you might be using toxic lotions on your body. You might be wearing toxic hair weave in your hair. You might have toxic something else, toxic makeup, toxic eyelashes. You might have these things. If you are trying to truly heal, there's a lot of things that you need to remove so that your body can do what it needs to do. But it's kind of an oxymoron. You're trying to heal your body, yet you're still eating things that are not food. You're trying to heal your body, yet you have things laying on your largest organ of your body, which is your skin, right? So if you got this makeup on your face. I mean, I'm not going to be completely against makeup or whatever, but I mean, you could at least wear some makeup that is not toxic, okay? Because makeup just has all kind of heavy metals and toxins in it that your body absorbs, and it's not good. Even fingernail polish, it can be bad for you. You have to wear certain fingernail polish if you're going to wear it. Lotions, I used to wear Gold Bond lotion, use Gold Bond lotion. That's not good for you. But if you are trying to heal your body and you're expecting healing because your body wants to heal itself, you've got to stop doing these things. You've got to remove the toxicity so that the healing can happen. Because why are you going to take honey and try to have healing, but you're still doing toxic things? You got to get out of toxic environments. I'll say if you're smoking cigarettes, if you're around people who smoke cigarettes, smoking weed, if you're in stressful environments even, you got to get away from these things or figure out how to de-stress so your body can heal. And that's what this man is saying right here. In order to maximize the opportunity for wound healing, it is necessary to create conditions. You got to create the conditions for your body to heal. If you're not creating those conditions for your body to heal, your body is not going to heal, right? So got to do that. And it's going back to antibacterial activity. Starts talking about more about antibacterial activity, which is wonderful. So if those people who are listening are just joining, I am reading The Honey Prescription by Nathaniel Altman. And the topic today is the healing within your cupboard, which is honey. Okay, the honey prescription. So you might already have honey at home, but you might need to update your honey game. Like if you're just using some honey bear that on the honey bear it says honey like product or something like that, it's not honey. It's not honey. You got to at least get some real honey. So back to the book. It's talking about more antimicrobials and antibacterial. It talks about honey being a good thing for first aid because it's a strong antibacterial ability. It has the ability to quickly render even heavily infected wounds sterile without the use of antibiotics. Honey is a perfect first aid dressing. And I'll say this, like I believe that whatever you're doing on the outside of your body, you should do on the inside. So if I'm applying honey to my body in somewhere where I might have a wound, I'm also going to eat the honey so it can work from the inside out. It enhances the immune system activity. It is a deodorization. Let's see. I don't know if it's talking about like body deodorant. This is why honey can deodorize wounds. Okay, it deodorizes the wound, which is important. There have been numerous reports, cases of how honey applications either reduce or eliminate wound odor. Oh, like a wound. Yeah, a wound can stink. Writing in the text, Honey, a modern wound management product, Val Robeson, Lee Martin, and Rose Cooper relate the case history of a young woman with a serious breast infection that did not respond to antibiotics. The patient found both the lack of healing and accompanying odor very distressing to the point that she refused to look at the wound and would only allow her mother to change the dressing. After 2 weeks of treatment with sterile dressing made with Meta honey, The dead tissue from the wound cleared up and was replaced by healthy tissue. The patient rejoiced that the malodor was also completely resolved, adding that the odor control resulting from the use of the honey was of paramount importance to her. After 11 weeks, the woman reported that the wound was completely healed. Woohoo for her. It talks about wound debridement, anti-inflammatory. That's another thing with, just getting rid of that dead cell. That's what it is. It's like stuff is dying. Like when you start smelling that stuff, it's dealing with that necro word. Yeah, stuff is just dying off. More anti-inflammatory action. It reduces scarring, new tissue growth. It promotes that. And then there's some downsides, it says, to honey. Honey can be more fluid and higher temperatures. It may liquefy at room temperature, thus making it less effective. The risk of liquefaction can cause leakage and create a terrible mess. Oh, bother. Preparation of homemade honey dressing is not easy. A small number of patients, approximately 5%, have experienced a temporary stinging sensation in the wound, which is a major cause of discomfort. The availability of commercially produced sterile dressing impregnated with honey, such as Meta honey, prepared gels and dressings, activation toil, and Comvita apenate dressing, enable healthcare practitioners to avoid many of these problems. So basically they have already prepared honey dressings, so you don't have to like whip these things up at home, but they're probably going to say it's expensive. Enable healthcare practitioners to avoid many of these problems. Some of these new dressings contain a hard gel that swells to a softer gel and absorbs liquid from the wound. This enables the honey to keep in contact with the wound itself while preventing the moisture from leaving the bandaged area. I provide Dr. Molin's guidelines for using homemade honey dressings in the following chapter, which should help minimize some of these problems. The clinical evidence for the use of honey as a safe, effective, and inexpensive wound treatment is accumulating steadily. In addition to laboratory research on the therapeutic aspects of honey, many hospitals and universities have undertaken clinical research documenting the treatment of actual wound patients, although an entire book could be devoted to the aspect of honey and wound healing alone. The following chapter features some of the most important studies. So the following chapter is of the studies here. So it talks about the Medi honey. Oh, okay. I wanted to read this too. Okay, here's a quote. Honey is the most ancient wound dressing known, but as a bioactive dressing material, it is also the most modern type of wound dressing. That's Peter C. Molin, professor of biological science and director of the Honey Research Unit, University of Waikato, New Zealand. Franklin Lloyd, a retired attorney from Queens, New York, first noticed that his right leg was swollen in 2007, originally diagnosed with bacterial cellulitis. I didn't want to read that. Hold on. I wanted to read let's see, I saw it. Okay. Okay, I know I put a marker here for some reason. It's talking about the topical skin infection, a severe and stubborn topical skin infection caused by a microbacterium ulceration. Okay. But that's not it. That's not what I was looking for. Maybe I marked that for no reason. No big deal. All right. Because y'all going to get this book. Y'all going to get this book. You're going to check it out from the library or order it online or whatever, okay? So it talks about pressure ulcers, post-surgical wounds, like before they were talking about the C-sections, and it's talking about the dead tissue and necrotic tissue replaced by granulation, new tissue, foul-smelling wounds were fixed. Oh, studies among cancer patients. That's important. Let's read it. Studies among cancer patients. Medical experts from the University of Bonn in Germany have documented their largely positive experience with treating wounds with honey. Even chronic wounds infected with multi-resistant bacteria often heal within a few weeks. One of the most promising aspects of honey treatment is that it excels against bacteria that are often resistant to traditional antibiotics. According to Dr. Arnie Simon, who works at the cancer ward at the university's Children's Clinic, in the hospital today, we are faced with germs that are resistant to almost all the current antibiotics. Wow. As a result, the medical use of honey is becoming attractive again for the treatment of wounds. As far as wound treatment is concerned, his young patients from high risk group, which are chemotherapies known as cytostatistics, to treat cancer not only slow down the reproduction of malignant cells, but also repairs the healing process of wounds. Normally, a skin injury heals in a week. With our children, it often takes a month or more, Dr. Simon explains. Okay, so it's talking about leukemia and all kind of different cancers that it heals. Honey and milk against staph infections. Oh, it talks about herpes, healing herpes. Okay. People, yeah. So it goes into that. Something about gold miners. Okay. After nail bed surgery, more MRSA infections. Yeah, there's some serious infections that honey addresses. Oh, here's the one about the teeth. Okay, wound healing. Okay. 2 suggested protocols. Let's see. Okay. Honey, the Gourmet Medicine. That's another book. Honey, the Gourmet Medicine from Joe Trainer. Okay, it says, Bee and honey expert Joe Trainer offered the following simple protocol in Honey, the Gourmet Medicine. Abscesses, cavities, and depressions in the wound should be filled with honey before okay, that's not that kind of cavity. That's a cavity in like your skin or whatever. So honey for burns, it talks about that. I should really just go off of where I had marked things, because we are an hour and 28 minutes in. Talks about honey and internal disorders. Okay. Cough and cold, of course, we all know that. Intestinal disorders, salmonella, infantile gastritis or something like that, stomach ulcers, hemorrhoids. Here, honey, a possible cure for yeast infections. Member of the Department of Microbiology of Eurasides University in Turkey carried a lot of studies going on in Turkey. I don't know what the United States is doing. Carried out an in vitro study. So that means, I guess, in the, female parts, on antifungal cavity, Turkish honey against both candida and trichoporon. The research evaluated honey samples from various floral sources for their ability to inhibit the growth of 40 yeast strains, including Candida albicans, which is like, I guess, the common yeast infection, or C. cruzi, or C. galbrata, and trichosporon, SPP, how do you say that? Fluconazole. Okay, that's the medication they usually give you. Fluconazole resistant yeast strains were also examined for their susceptibility to honey. Fluconazole is used to treat fungal infections, including yeast infections of the vagina, mouth, throat, esophagus, and urinary tract. And what I noticed on social media as well, people are using yeast infection to treat hair loss, which I guess it works, but that just tells you that there's a yeast problem in the scalp. So I would say that you probably need to go ahead and treat your scalp, not with toxic fluconazole, but with honey. If you're having hair loss and, just problems of your scalp. Okay, so it says that the researchers found that the yeast strains tested were inhibited by honey in this study. So honey to the rescue again. All right, now here's the honey in oral health and ophthalmology. So it talks about honey fighting tooth decay. And in there, I was telling you how, potential for honey in dentistry. Many of the therapeutic applications for wound and burn care described earlier can also be applied to honey in dentistry. Okay, here we go. Following tooth extraction and gum surgery, There appears to be a definite potential using honey in the prevention and treatment of wound following tooth extractions and other oral surgery. This is achieved by using a specialized formulated gelled honey material patented by the University of Waikato that adheres to the oral mucosa and dissolves very slowly in the mouth. Depending on formulation, a small piece of honey gel is placed in the cavity resulting from the tooth extraction, and the wound is sutured, or the gel can be smeared on the wound itself, reducing infection and inflammation. It will also help relieve pain and allow healthy tissue to form more quickly. Are these people taking you through all these changes and you can get some honey stuck in your mouth and not have all these extra problems? There's a conspiracy going on here. Yeah. So it talks about periodontal disease and other infections of the mouth, okay? Then it talks about gingivitis. Then it talks about honey and root canal treatment. From August through November 2001, Dr. M.B. Moby High and Dr. M.A. Manzoor from the Operative Dentistry Department at the Armed Forces Institutes of Dentistry in Rawalpindi, Pakistan, compared the efficacy of camphorated, oh my goodness, pamoracolafonol to mixture of honey and mustard oil, okay, as a root canal medicine. They collected 90 samples of infected contents from decayed teeth in root canal patients from the Operative Dentistry Department of the Armed Forces Institute of Dentistry. Organisms were identified and isolates were preserved and refrigerated from experiments. So they scraped samples from these people, basically. They also prepared the medicines in comparable dilutions. The minimum inhibitory concentration of both medicaments were determined by susceptibility testing against already preserved isolates. The researchers found that both the mixtures of honey and mustard oil and the camphorated, macrophenol, demonstrated antibacterial activity. Although the concentrations of the honey and mustard oil were greater, the researchers concluded that it was nevertheless an effective, viable alternative to endodontic medicament. Okay, so basically this is a root canal treatment. He got a little medical there on me. But yeah, if I read it again, I guess I'll fully absorb it. So it says honey, good for the eyes. Although there is evidence that the ancient Egyptians used honey to treat eye diseases, the Greek philosopher Aristotle is credited with being among the first to record medicinal use of honey for the eyes as far back as 350 BCE. In section 627a of his Tume Historia Animalium, he wrote, white honey is good for salve for sore eyes. Honey was also widely used in India to treat eye disease and has been used by traditional healers in Mali to prevent scarring of the cornea in case of measles. In chapter 4, I cited reference from the Talmud about the healing effects of honey on the eyes. Okay, so they talk about different healings that honey promotes for the eyes, even like, if I'm not mistaken, cataracts and glaucoma. Let's see here. It says, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antifungal. One of the earliest ophthalmology-related reports was published in the Soviet Union in 1953. It describes using honey in place of petroleum jelly. I hope so. Lord have mercy, petroleum jelly in a 3% sulfide eye ointment to treat keratitis, a disease in which the cornea of the eye is inflamed. It also reported positive results in the honey ointment for 28 patients suffering from a variety of eye problems, including syphilitic keratitis. Ooh, that's like syphilis in the eye. Corneal ulcers, injuries to the cornea, and lime burns to the cornea. A later study reported by a team in Soviet research in 1984 documented the use of honey to cure a variety of eye disease, including opaque spots appearing in the cornea as a result of herpes. Oh my gosh. Chemical and thermal burns to the eye and conjunctivitis. Okay. So I would conclude that honey should be placed over the eyes here. Like, I would say if you need to do this, if there's something going on with your eyes, you should put honey on, I would say, a piece of flannel, just like you would do a castor oil pack. just put some honey on there and just put it on your eyes and just let it sit there. I wouldn't heat it up. I wouldn't do anything like that. I would just put it on the eyes. People do that now with castor oil, but I would say try honey. I mean, this honey just sounds amazing. Okay, honey is mentioned in the Bible. We got that 61 time in Melon. Yes, okay. Okay. Hello, Clifford. I hope you're taking this in. Thank you for listening. This is Nathaniel Altman's book, The Honey Prescription, Amazing Power of Honey. Yes, and I'm telling you, like it just goes through so many things. Like you got joint pain, you got headaches, all that. I'm telling you, honey looks like it's the answer. Not just honey, but the right honey. You know, when you study this book, you will see that there are different types of honey for different types of things that I would say are more effective, right? It doesn't mean that the honey you have is not effective, but the honey that they have studied might be more effective. But again, I say it again and again, use what you have prayerfully, pray over these things to Yah. Ask God to deliver you the medication that you need from the honey. Ask him to deliver, more information than beyond what I'm even giving you, because by way of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach, he can give you more information that you need. Just like I got this book. I was blown away about this book. I thought I was going to go off of medical articles or whatever and have to put this together. No, this whole book is there. And this is a great, great book. It's wonderful. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about, because in this book, it talks about giving infants honey. I saw something. Yeah, it is getting late. I'll be done in just a second, okay? We'll see, but I'm still reading this. Okay, Sunpreet, thank you. Okay, it says honey, safe for infants, safe for diabetics. All right, so infants younger than 12 months are at risk of infant botulism from eating honey. And that's from J. Holker, MD. And honey has long been considered a safe and healthy food for children and adults, although it has been given to infants as both food and medicine since ancient Egyptian times. Doctors like Jay Holker, a pediatrician at the Mayo Clinic, recommend that honey not be given to infants under 1 year of age. Why is this? Infants are especially vulnerable to botulism, which is caused by spores of the bacterium Clostridium botulinum. They do not affect children as adults. Yet, because the gastrointestinal tract of infants is not fully developed, they do not yet have the intestinal microflora that allowed them to ingest C. botulinum spores without harm. The spores can germinate and grow in the intestinal tract and produce the deadly disease. Clostridium botulinum is widely found in nature. Scientists have detected it in the soil, in the air, and in the house dust, which can contaminate toys, feeding bottles, pacifiers, and babies' hands. Is also found in fresh and processed meats, corn syrup, fruits, and vegetables. Clostridium botulinum spores have also been found in a tiny number of honey samples. It is very difficult to remove these spores without destroying the honey itself. Although the chance of an infant coming down with botulism from honey is remote, the United States Centers for Disease Prevention and Control, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the National Honey Board all advise that honey should not be fed to infants under age of 1. So I'm reading between the lines and behind the lines, I guess. You just, I'm not telling you to feed your baby honey, but I see what they're saying here. The experts, as we call them, they're telling you not to feed the infants honey. But what this person is saying is these same spores that they're talking about to be found in honey are also on everything and in the baby's bottles. They're everywhere. So there's a fear factor here that is being produced. And I get it. I understand it. I'm not telling you to give your baby honey, but it is read clearly here that he's just trying to tell you that the spores that they're talking about are found everywhere that the baby touches, and the pacifiers in the bottle and the toy, everywhere. This thing is everywhere. So it's COVID all over again. But anyway, so there's a difference of opinion. Not all scientists agree with this recommendation. In chapter 9, I cited a clinical trial dealing with honey's ability to treat infantile. Yeah, that's what I said. he did say that infantile gastroenteritis. In this study, a group of pediatricians from the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Natal in South Africa treated children as young as 8 days of age with honey. Okay, so they gave some children 8 days old honey. Okay, so somebody else, let's see, regarding honey, they concluded that the recommendation that honey should not be given to infants should be reevaluated. So somebody else is saying that that needs to be reevaluated. That's just one of those things that people run with. Oh, the doctor said this, you know, the doctor says all kind of crap. But yeah. So yep. So that's it. That's one of those things that they've told us, that infants shouldn't have honey. Recommendations: the decision to give your honey to an infant is a difficult one. While medical grade UMF rated Manuka honey that has been gamma radiated to kill Clostridium spores would be a possible solution to this problem, this type of honey is not easy to obtain. Mothers need to make the decision as to whether giving honey to their baby is worth the risk of feeding honey. If feeding honey should simply be delayed until it can produce its own problems. Okay, so is honey safe for diabetics? According to the American Diabetes Association, diabetes is a disease in which the body does not produce or properly use insulin. Insulin is a hormone that is needed to convert sugar, starches, and other foods into energy for daily life. While the cause of diabetes is a mystery, no, it's not. Both genetic and environmental factors such as obesity and lack of exercise appear to play roles. Yeah, it's the food. Yeah. There are two major types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes results from the body's failure to produce insulin. Type 2 diabetes results in insulin resistant, a condition in which the body fails to produce or to use insulin properly. Okay, so honey and the glycemic index, carbohydrates. Let's talk about how the carbohydrates break down. Two of the foods with the highest GI, okay. High glycemic foods range from 64 to 100. The glycemic index raises breakfast. Okay, so it's talking about the different foods as compared to honey. But there are studies here, of course, showing that people who are diabetic can consume honey. And there's, again, several studies. Not one, not two, just several studies. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to let you read that on your own. But yes, there are studies, many studies talking about people in diabetes. Then there's honey and wellness, and it talks about honey and the selenium absorption, prebiotics, friendly bacteria, sports nutrition, a calcium absorption, bioflavorable antioxidants, honey as sound nutrition. Let's see. And then the research of honey, there's further research going on. And then the last part pretty much is honey and recipes, like issues that you may be having, like the stuff we just talked about. Let me tell you how many pages there are of these. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 pages for issues. Right here it says tonsillitis. I wish somebody would have known this before I got my tonsil snatched out of my throat. Tonsillitis, I could have been taking honey. But yeah, then there's honey for beauty in chapter 15. It's talking about pimples and blemishes. For radiant skin, skin cleansing, nutrition and moisturizing, anti-wrinkle treatments, and skin lotion. You can make a lotion out of honey. It's telling you how to whip up some stuff, okay, and for dry hair. And then it's talking about bees in the future. And then bees are a threatened species. It's talking about that. And then honey varieties. Then in the end, it's talking about different honey varieties. Here, there's a lot of honey varieties, okay? So I can't go through every single thing, but they have great references here. I'm telling you, the back, the notes and the indexes and all this different stuff. Uh, yeah, I mean, just every single chapter. This man has done an excellent job in every single chapter showing you who he's referenced, what he's referenced. Um, he's done a good job of citing his sources. And I'm telling you, it is like pages and pages of cited sources that you can continue on in your research on your own. And then there's also a glossary, which we all love a good glossary, and then an index. If you want to reference certain things, you can go back because the index is here. But I thoroughly enjoyed going over this book with you. And this Nathaniel Altman has another book called The New Oxygen Prescription, and talking about the miracle of oxidative therapies. And there's several other books here that are referenced, and you might enjoy them. Not going to read the list, but then there's one here on colloidal silver. Maybe I will. Colloidal silver, oil pulling, you are your own best medicine, natural remedies for inflammation, the acid alkaline diet for optimal health, secret medicines from your garden, the shamanic way of the bee. Not interested in the shamanic way, but I don't have to tell you that. Then the new oxygen prescription. So, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It's a good book. And again, we're talking about the healing within your cupboard. Honey. So honey, you might have honey in your cupboard, but it's time to put that honey to use. If you don't have Manuka honey, just make sure that you have honey. Make sure what you're using is actually honey and not some honey flavored. Like I had some stuff from, I think we were at a hotel, and I don't think that stuff was honey. It was like just a sugary brown thing. It wasn't really honey. You have to make sure what you're consuming is honey. There's a lot of fake things out here that are not really food, and a lot of fake people out here that don't mean you well. So you just have to know the difference prayerfully. Seek Yah for all of your understanding. In all thy getting, get an understanding, which is what the word says, right? So in all thy getting, get an understanding. What happened to my phone? Okay. And as you get that understanding, you'll be able to share it with those around you, those that you love, those that, just are wondering about certain things. I personally enjoy that. I enjoy sharing with people the knowledge and information that I have come upon. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people are also they know that they're on a healing journey, and they are looking to seek out whatever information they can find. And they're happy to talk with you about whatever it is that you're interested in. Those people, those are your tribe. That's what they say. But yeah, I mean, you always want to be able to be the light to people, especially in these times. Because although we're not dealing with COVID per se, which, I mean, it seems like they are trying to make this thing go on and on forever. People have suffered greatly because of just what's being done, just all what's being done. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. They've been poisoning the air and the food and just providing stress this whole time, So we got to turn to Yah because he has the answers that we need. But in that, I want to thank you all for joining me. We've been here for just about 2 hours. I've enjoyed this time going over this book because it's a good book. Again, one more time, Nathaniel Altman's The Honey Prescription. Get that. Go to the back, the references, and just look some things up. Go to the journals of medicine that are in the internet as well. This is stuff that they're not telling you. The information is here. It's clearly here. It's not just one man's opinion about honey. It is clearly a remedy. But anyway, so we want to end on our scripture. And join me again prayerfully next week. I'll be here again. And my goal is to deliver another topic. You can find us on PQLR1 Radio, on YouTube, on Facebook. just any social media platform, pretty much that you could think of. Listen to the music that is brought forth by Yah's inspired artists. But Philippians 4:8, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. I should know this scripture by heart without looking at it, but don't want to mess up. So praise Yah. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to talking with you again another time, hopefully next Wednesday, where our topic is hopefully going to be the healing properties. No, that was this week. It's going to be hormones, which is talking about your hormones and hair. We're going to talk about that. If I get that topic together, we'll talk about it next week. If not, we'll have something else to talk about. But just join us again next Wednesday at the same time. All right. Email us if you'd like to, PQLR1 Radio at gmail.com. I'm starting to ramble on, so I'm going to let you all go. And praise Yah. And we thank you so much for joining us.